Baruch Hashem. Today's Daf Yomi is Horayos Gimel, Horayos 13, and we're going to dedicate the Daf for Shemir for the Chayalim. That's all for the Shuyim, Yeshua for Am Yisrael. And today's Daf, we're going to start at the Mishnah on the bottom of 12b, very bottom of the very bottom Mishnah. It says, Kol atadir mechavero, kodem es chavero. Whatever is more frequent, whatever comes more often, will come prior to it. So we this is the general rule of tadir v'sheino tadir kodem. If you have two things, you're not sure which to do first, do the more frequent one first. And Gemara is going to give us examples of this. Whatever is holier than his friend will also come before it. And the Mishnah says, Para Mashiach u Para Eidah. Let's say you have the bull of the Kohen Gadol, if he made a mistake, and the bull of the community, if they made a mistake, Omnim, if they're both standing there, Par Mashiach Kodem Par Eidah V'Kol Ma'asav. The Par Mashiach will always be brought first. The bull of the Kohen Gadol will always be brought first. The Gemara is going to explain what's the source for this, and we'll learn that air. The Mishnah of Tadir Mekudesh, this idea is also taught in Zvachim, and so we're going to talk about that more in Zvachim. Minani Mili, what's the source for this idea that Tadir V'Sheino Tadir, the one that's Tadir comes beforehand? Amar Bayid, Amar Kra, it says, Milvad Olas HaBoker Asher Olas HaTamid, that it says during the Karbanos of the Moadim, it says that you bring on the vessels the Karbanos, aside from the Ola Saboker, from the daily Ola, that is also the Ola Satamid. Well, so it says the Gemara, Milchti Ksiv Ola Saboker, since it's already called the Ola Saboker, Ola Satamid Mamli, why do we have to mention it's the Ola Satamid? So the Gemara says, Achikam Rachmana, called the Tadira Kadima. It's to teach us this idea, since it says Ola Satamid, and whatever is tadir comes first. Whatever is holier than his friend comes before it. We know what's the source of this idea. To tell me, Rabbi Shmuel, the Kidashti. It says about the Kohen, it says, the Pasuk says, the Kidashto, that you should sanctify the Kohen in Parashas Amor. And so since it says the Kidashto, we learn from here, Kol Tavar Shabektusha, for everything that is holy, we sanctify him. Meaning to say, Leftoach Rishon, he makes the bracha, he Leftoach Rishon, meaning we call him to the Torah first, Levarach Rishon, he does Birkas HaMazon first, Litol Mani Yafa Rishon, he takes the first portion first, he gets first of everything. Top of Yud Gimel Amid Aleph, Par Kohen HaMashiach Upar Eidah. Let's say if the bull of the Kohen Gadol who is anointed in the pool of the community, the bull of the Kohen Gadol comes first. So the Gemara says, Mili, what's the source of this idea? We shall burn it. We burn it just like we burnt the bull. Harishon. Harishon. Why does it have to say in this context that there was something that was first? Harishon. It means sheyeh rishon kodem l'paraida, that the Kohen Gadol's bull should be first, coming before the bull of the community. B'chol ma'asav, all its ways. Tanarabbanan par Kohen Mashiach u'paraida omdim. Let's say the bull of the Kohen, that's Gadol, and the bull of the community are standing there. Par Kohen Mashiach kodem l'paraida b'chol ma'asav. It comes before it always. Now, whole Mashiach mechaper. Why? Since the Kohen Gadol serves it to atone, Ve'eda mischaperes, and the community is the one that's being atoned for. Dinu shiyaktim ha'mechaper mischaper. The one who atones comes before the one who is being atoned. So that he could properly atone for others, he needs to be atoned first. That's why on Yom Kippur it says that he first atones for himself, and then for his community, for his family, and then for all of Israel. Because first he has to achieve atonement for himself. It's like the idea you first put your oxygen mask on yourself and then on those next to you. So, okay. The bull of the community comes before the bull of the idolatry, my time, because the sin offering comes before the olah. Before we could bring the olah, we have to first atone for our sins, and then we could bring the olah. So the bull of idolatry, the bull of the community is a chatas, and the bull of the idolatry is an olah, and so therefore the chatas comes before the olah. V'tanya v'krivas asher chatas rishonah. Why does it say that? It already knows the chatas is first because it says Vasheni Yaseh Mishpat. So to tell us that Zeban of Shiukol Chatas Kodmos Olos, that all the chatos come before their olos that come with them. Even if it's a bird, it comes before an animal if it's a chatas. And paravodas kachavim kodem was sayer avodas kachavim. But however, the bull of idolatry comes before the goat of idolatry, even though the goat is a sin offering. Paravodas kachavim for idolatry comes before the sayer. But why? The goat is a sin offering and the bull is an olah. So why does it come first? Why does the bull come first? So Amri b'Ma'arava Mishmei Rava Barmari Chatas Avodas Kachavim Chaser Aleph, because the word with the Chatas when it's written by idolatry is written without the Aleph. It's written Lechatas without an Aleph Ksiv. Rava Amar Kemishpat Ksiv. No, because it's written in that pasuk Kemishpat, which teaches us Kemishpat Sirizim that you have to follow the way they're written in the Torah, and the bull is written before the goat. Sayer Avodas Kachavim Kodem was Sayer. No, see the goat of idolatry comes before the goat of a king who sinned, my time, because the goat of community is communal and therefore comes first. The goat of the king who sinned comes before the goat of an individual sin, my time, because one is a king and one is a commoner. The goat of an individual who sins can bring in either a goat or a sheep. So if he brings a goat, that comes, so we say that the goat of an individual comes before a sheep. Gemara says, but we have a different source that says the sheep comes before the goat. So the Gemara says, how do we explain it? It's a dispute. Mar Savar Seira Adifa, Shekin Nisrabta, Eitza Avodas Kachavim Biyachid. Umar Savar Kivsa Adifa, Shekin Nisrabta, Be'elya. So no, one says that the goat should come first, because if you sin with idolatry, then it's only a goat that's brought. So we see that there's a distinction between a goat and a sheep, and the goat should come first. And the other says, no, the sheep should come first because the tail of the sheep is brought on the altar, unlike the goat. And that's why they have this dispute. Then the Gemara says, Omer kodem l'keves abayim. When you bring the Omer offering, you also bring with a sheep. So which comes first? The barley offering comes before the sheep. Shtei alechem, the 2 loaves of bread on Shavuos, kod min l'kvasim. They're brought before the 2 sheep that come along with it. Is that called the general rule? Davar ba begin liyom, kodem with davar ba begin lechem. The thing that comes for the day, i.e., the barley or the sheep or the 2 loaves of bread, come before the things that only come because of the bread that accompanies them, i.e., the sheep that accompany the offerings on Shavuos, and the sheep that accompany the offering on barley of the Omer. Okay, so we're at the Mishnah in the middle of 13a. Says the Mishnah. Okay, this is very lifeboat ethics, so very theoretical Mishnah, but even the theory is obviously disconcerting. Even though today they say, okay, God forbid a ship goes down, they say women and children saved first, but it's the opposite of the Talmud. The Talmud says the man comes before the woman to be saved. And to return a lost object. And presumably the man has the ability to do more mitzvos, and we're valuing the mitzvos. But a woman gets clothed first before a man because it's immodest for her to have clothing, to not have clothing. And also, if you want to save somebody from captivity, you take the woman out first because we're concerned, God forbid, that she could be assaulted. But if both of them are in danger of being sexually assaulted, then the man is saved first because his embarrassment will be greater. Tana Rabbanan, Hayahu va'ave v'rabba b'shavi. Let's say he's in captivity, and so is his father, and so is his Rebbe. Who called him a rabbi? He saves himself. He ransoms himself before his teacher. The rabbi called him off him, and he ransoms his Rebbe before his father. The Gemara in Bava Metzia talks about this, but that's only where his father doesn't also teach him Torah or pay for his Torah. But because the reason is that his father brought him into this world, but the Rebbe brings him into this world and to the world to come. But if his father also brought him into the world to come, then obviously then he would save his father first. Imo kodemes kulam. His mother is saved before all of them, because the embarrassment for the mother being assaulted will be much greater. Zil says what? The Brisa is saying it now. This is the Brisa. Imo kodemes kulam. That's the Brisa. Because it's well, there's comparing those two on the same level, but then it says the mother comes before all of them. I don't know why it didn't list the mother there, but because she's a different category. So Chacham Godem Melech, Yisrael, a king, a wise man comes before a king of Israel. Chacham Shemeis Ein Lo Kayotzi. But the reason is if a scholar dies, there's no equivalent to him. But Melech Yisrael. But Melech who dies, Shemeis, Kol Yisrael Ruyim L'Malchus. Anybody can be king. Melech, so therefore the Torah scholar comes before him to be saved. Of course, the Torah scholars wrote this, so Melech Kodem L'Kohen Gadol, the king is saved before the high priest, as it says, Vayomer Melech Lahem Kechuim Lachem Me'avdei Adonechem. Because the king says to them, take from your servants, and so therefore he's so he says take with you from your servants, and take Shlomo Bani, my son Shlomo, on the mule, and take him down to the Gihon. Meaning to say, when David wanted to appoint Shlomo king, he said to Tzadok Cohen and Natan the Navim Ben Yehoyada, and he said that they should take from the servants of their Lord, meaning from his servants. And so since David called himself their Lord, we see from here that the king comes first. Kohen Gadol Kodem Navi, because it says Mashacho so Sham Tzadok Kohen V'Natan Navi. So Hiktim Tzadok Nasan. Tzadok's name is mentioned before before Natan in anointing Solomon king. V'Omer Shmana Yoshua Kohen Gadol Atav Reyacha. And also Yoshua was both a Kohen Gadol and a Navi. It says you come first. We're in the middle of 13a. No, not everyone can be a Kohen Gadol. Only a Kohen can. Any Kohen could. Yeah.
But isn't that a shorter?
A smaller amount.
Isn't that more like spread out?
More spread out. Yeah. Well, they're gonna have a pasuk. They're psukim. Yachad Yotos. I may think even a regular Kohen comes before Navi. Tamomer can shame face Hema. Face El Navi. No, because they're men of wonder and all. And Mofes refers to a prophet. It says, "V'nasane lecha osam Mofes." Mashuach b'shem Mishcha, one who's anointed with oil, Kodem l'meruba begadim, comes before the Kohen Gadol who just has 8 garments, but is not anointed. Meruba begadim, the one who is anointed with 8 garments, Kodem l'Mashiach shavar. He comes before the Kohen Gadol who's retired. Mashiach shavar machmas kiryo, who was temporarily retired because he had an omission. Mashiach shavar machmas kiryo, Kodem la'avar machmas mumo, the one who was released from activity as a Kohen Gadol because of an omission comes before the one who was released because he has a permanent blemish. Our Machmas Muma, the Kohen who was released because the Kohen Gadol was released because he has a blemish. He comes before the Kohen Gadol who was anointed not to be. The Kohen was anointed just to be the leader in battle, but not the actual Kohen Gadol. Mashuach Mochama Kodem Skan, the one who was anointed to lead into battle, comes before the deputy Kohen. Skan Kodem Amracho. The Skan comes before the Amracho. My Amracho. What's an Amracho? Amracho is the Amar Kula Amracho, meaning to say Amar Kula. That he says, and he's the one who gets everything done in the temple. The Meiri said that there were 7 of them, and they all had a key, and they could only open the temple when all 7 put their key in at the same time. So that's what that Amrachel. So this is all the degradation of who's higher. Amrachel Kodem Gizbar. The Amrachel comes before the treasurer of the temple. The Gizbar Kodem Rosh Mishmar. The Gizbar comes before the Rosh Mishmar. Rosh Mishmar, that's the head of the watch. There were 24 Mishmaros. The Kohanim were divided into 24 groups. And then they were subdivided into Beit Avs, who served one day of each Mishmar. So the Mishmar comes before the head of the Beit Av. And Rosh Beit Av called him a Kohen Hedger. He comes before a regular Kohen. So then we say, let's say there's a dead body there, and one of them has to become Tameh to take care of the dead body. Who has to do that? The Skanu Mashuach Nochama Ezemeyam Kodem. Which one of them comes first, the deputy or the one who's anointed into battle? Meaning to say, who is the one comes first to become Tameh? Meaning to say, who is the one who's holier and does not become Tameh? So Marzucha Breder Rav Nichman says, Tashman Tanya Skanu Mashuach Nochama Shem Mahachim Derech Upaga B'Hem Mitzvah. So the Skan and the deputy. And the deputy and the one who's anointed for battle are walking along the road, and they see this dead body. It's better off to have the one who's anointed into battle become tamei and not the deputy. Why? Even though the one who's anointed into battle is higher than him, because Shemir bo psul Kohen Gadol, because if the Kohen Gadol goes down, then we need the deputy. So even though the anointed into battle is higher, he doesn't take over for the high priest. So therefore, better to have him go down than the deputy. But didn't we say that the anointing in the battle comes before the deputy? No, that's when you have to decide who to save if the lifeboat goes down. But when it comes to who becomes Tameh, the anointing in the battle goes Tameh. This is all, of course, you have similar things. I mean, Harold and Jeff are here. They were both in government. You have the line of succession in the government, who goes first, and also you have that's not only when the president dies and you say who goes first, but also who sits at the meetings when you have a cabinet meeting and the secretary is not there. So then you have the deputy, the under, the assistant. Who's higher, a deputy or an under? Deputy is higher than an under, and an under is higher than an assistant. But let's say you have an assistant deputy and an under. Who's higher?
Assistant deputy. No. Yeah.
So the deputy, the deputy, then the under, then the assistant deputy, then the assistant under. So then the assistant. So it goes deputy. Right, they have different rules. They have different halachos depending upon which department of the government. You think there's people in that position pay attention to their role in the pecking order? Absolutely. They know exactly where they are. And they know when so deputy is. What is the difference? Oh, he's the highest of all the deputies. There's a deputy is higher than an under, and an under is high. No, deputy is higher than an under, right. And an under is higher than an assistant. And an assistant deputy is lower than an assistant. That's a machokes.
I'm guessing it's probably depends on the agency.
Yeah, we don't know. Yeah, but sometimes they have people who are just appointed straight by the president without being confirmed. They might be the highest of all. Yeah. It's a big. It's a big union. They have this mission, Horayos, that they could guide them. Kohen Kodem Levi. The Kohen comes before the Levi to be saved. The Levi comes before the Israelite. The Israel and Mamzer. Mamzer comes before the Nasin. The Nasinim were the Gevonim, that they had a conversion which was questionable. The Nasin comes before the Ger, the convert. The Ger comes before the Evem Meshucher. He comes before the freed slave. And Amosai, when is this the case? Now we're limiting everything we just said, when they're all equal, which is of course never the case. But if the mamzer was a Torah scholar, The Kohen Gadol Amaretz, and the Kohen Gadol was ignoramus. Mamzer Tamachacham Kohen Gadol will call them a Kohen Gadol Amaretz. The Mamzer Torah scholar comes before the Kohen who is an Amaretz. Mamzer is a Torah scholar comes before even a Kohen Gadol is an Amaretz. So you see that basically uproots everything we just said. Kohen Kodem Levi. The Kohen comes before the Levi because it says Bnei Amram Aaron Moshe Vayivado Aaron Makdisho Kodesh Kodashim. So Aaron is listed before Moshe, and Aaron was separated to be the Holy of Holies. Levi comes with Kodem Yisrael. Shenemar Ba'isai Yavdil Hashem as Shevet Levi. If God separated Shevet Levi mitoch Yisrael. Yisrael Kodem with Mamzer. Israel comes before Mamzer. Shazem Yuchot Zainu Yuchot. The Mamzer has no lineage. Mamzer Kodem with Nasin. Mamzer comes before the Nasin because Zebra Mitipa Kshera is Zebra Mitipa Psul. Because at least the Mamzer came from somebody who was Jewish, and the other one came from somebody who wasn't. Nasin Kodem with Ger. The Nasin comes before the Ger because Zeh Gadol Imanu B'Kedusha, Zeh Lo Gadol Imanu B'Kedusha. At least the Nasin was raised in holiness. The Ger Kodem will have a Meshuchar. The Ger comes before the freed slave, Zeh Ayabakal Arar, Zeh Lo Ayabakal Arar, because the slave was considered cursed, but not the convert. Amos is man Shakur and Shav, and this is only when they're all equal. But if they're not equal, even the Torah, the Mamzer as a Torah scholar comes before the Kohen Gadol. Nani Miliam Rabacha Barabchanina Damakra Yikara Hashem Mipninim is more precious than the Pninim. Pninim is a pearl, but here the Talmud makes a play on the words Mikohen Gadol Shenichnas Lefnai Lefnim, that he's even more precious than the Kohen Gadol goes into the inner holy of holies on Yom Kippur. The Mamzer Talmud Chacham is even more precious than that. At the end of Yuma says the story where the Kohen Gadol is leaving after services on Yom Kippur and everybody's following him, and then they see Shemaya and Avtalion, who were descendants of converts, and the people left the high priest to follow Shemaya and Avtalion because they were Torah scholars, and the Kohen Gadol got upset, but they said, no, we're the true descendants of Aaron. We're the true descendants of Aaron. Rabbi Shimon Yochai says really should put the freed slave before the convert. Because one was raised with us in holiness, i.e., the freed slave, and the other wasn't. But the freed slave was cursed. First, he says, why does everybody run to marry a convert? That is news to me, but that's what he says. Everybody runs to marry a convert, but not everybody runs to marry a freed slave. Because the freed slave was in the category of the curse. No, the convert, at least she guarded herself from being free to everybody, unlike the freed slave who was unguarded. Once we start asking questions to Rabbi Elazar, we have more questions. Why does a dog recognize its owner but not a cat? So he says, if you eat from what the mouse ate, it's going to cause you to forget. So the one who eats the mouse, i.e. the cat, for sure is going to forget its owner. Show Talmid of it, so the Talmud like dogs better than cats. Show Talmid of it, Rabbi Elazar, they call Moshem Bachparim. Why does everybody rule over mice? Meaning everybody's always rushing after mice to attack it. Nisha Suran Ra. Because their nature is bad. Why? Why is their nature bad? Mahi. Rav Amar feel glima guys because the mice even chew coats. They don't taste good and they just chew it. Rav Papa Amar feel shufta mara guys. He says that they'll even chew tools like the handle of a hoe. There are 5 things that cause you to forget your Torah study. What are they? You eat from what a mouse ate. From what a cat ate. You eat an animal's heart. If you eat too many olives. If you drink the leftover water from a bath. If you wash your feet one on top of the other. Some say even if you put your clothing under your head. There are 5 things that cause you to remember it. Bring you back what you forgot. Pas b'chamin, that if you eat bread dipped in coals, the coals came b'chamin asma. If you even eat the coals themselves, If you eat an egg that is roasted below melach without salt. If you have olive oil, if you have wine, ubesamim and spices. If you drink the water of the leftover water of dough. Some say even if you dip your finger in salt and eat it. Somebody who has olive oil a lot, this will help him. Some people used to take a spoon of olive oil every morning. Did you ever have that, Harold? Did you ever have a spoon of olive oil every day? Jeff, your mom didn't make you drink a spoon of oil every day? Oh, Papa. You never did it. Imagine what could have happened to you if you had drank that. Imagine how good you could have been. I mean, hard to imagine any greater, but still, that's what the concept is. If we would have olive oil every day. Oh, okay. Uh-huh.
Roasting
Yeah.
is not, which is, I always thought it was the remembrance of the sacrifices.
But now it's from here.
But now it's here.
To make you remember Pesach. Write that down. You have a good Dvar Torah for your Seder. Beautiful, Harold. Beautiful. Oh, it says roasted. Lightly roasted. Well, well, maybe they have a source for that, I'm sure, but the technical word here is roasted. Okay. Just like olive causes you to forget learning of 70 years, also drinking olive oil causes you to remember from 70 years. Somebody who has typically drinks wine and spices and smells spices will remember. Wine and spices make you very smart. If you dip one finger, but this is a dispute. Rabbi Yehuda says, one, not two. Rabbi Yossi, two and not three. And the way to remember this is kamitza, which is about we dip your fingers and like this. You have two fingers on the side. So some say it's one, some say it's two. I don't know. It's not such a great simon for me, but that's was their simon. Asar dvarim kashan l'limud. There are 10 things that are difficult for somebody who studies. How over tachas afser. One who walks under afser agama. One who walks under the halter of a camel. For sure, if you walk under a camel. I don't know, that sounds pretty stupid to walk under a camel. Over bein shnei gemolim, one who crosses between two camels, also sounds dumb. Over bein shtei nashim, one who crosses between two women. Va'isha overes bein shnei anashim. If a woman crosses between two men. Va'over me, what? Va'isha overes, no, it's not a middle bearers, but it's a woman who passes between the two men. Over mitachas reach rosh al mevela. Somebody who crosses underneath the bad smell of a carcass. Over tachas hagesher, one who crosses over under a bridge, that the water hasn't flowed there for 40 days. Ochel pas shalobishal called sarko, somebody who eats bread that was not properly cooked. Ochel basar mezuama listrone, somebody who eats meat from a spoon that still has the meat grease on it. Vashota me'ama samayim, somebody who drinks from a stream of water, that's running through a cemetery. All my life, I've never seen a stream of water running through a cemetery, but if you drink from it, it's no good. Actually, I did remember one person, they got buried by a stream of water, but they got buried in his backyard. Donald Lubick, bless the memory, was buried in his backyard. One who looks at the face of the dead. That some say even one who reads the inscription on a tombstone. So some say not supposed to read the inscriptions on a tombstone. When the Nasi comes into the room, everybody has to stand. And nobody sits down until he tells them to sit. When the head of the court enters, they make one row on either side of him until he sits down in this place. When the Torah scholar enters, one sits and one stands until he sits down. Bnei Chachamim v'Talmidei Chachamim b'zman sheram tzucham mafsin al rosh ha'am. When you have the children of the scholars, and then when the people need them, they're allowed to even walk over the people. Everybody used to be sitting, and so when they would walk over them, it would be disrespectful. But if they're needed, then they do this. Yatzol tzorach yikanes. Let's say he had to go to the bathroom. He's allowed to go back in and sit in his place. The children of Torah scholars that their father appointed them to be the heads of the community. When they really have intelligence to hear, they're allowed to come and sit down in front of their fathers, and their backs are towards the people. When they don't have the ability to hear, then they go and they sit down in front of their fathers, and then they're faced towards the people. Even in a wedding, you make them like an adjunct to their father. If he went out to go to the bathroom, he's allowed to go back and sit in his place, even though it's disrespectful to the people. But you know what they're asking. What type of going to the bathroom are they allowed to go? So Amar Papa, well, Amar Katanim, that's only if they have to do Katanim, that's like the urinating. But if they have to do the Gedolim, he should have basically gone beforehand. Person should always get up early and go to sleep late so that he doesn't have to go to the bathroom in the middle of the day and they have to go far to do it. But the Chol nowadays nobody's got a good. The Chol nowadays where everybody is sick. I feel Gedolim Nami. You can even get out to go to the bathroom to do a Gedolim. And also some sniffing. Yeah, when you make them adjunct in the wedding hall, that's only when their father's still alive and their father's there. Okay, but now you can understand where this is going because they drew a distinction between who you get up for and how you get up for them. And you can imagine that that's going to cause some tension in the base medrash. And that's the story that's going to end. God willing, we'll finish up the daf tomorrow. And not only we finish Mesechus Horayos tomorrow, God willing, we'll finish all of Seder Nezikin, which we've been studying for 2 years. What a geschmack to study it together. And we'll do the same on Shabbos, on Seder Nezikin. What a milestone to have achieved. Baruch Hashem, and tomorrow's daf is maybe one of the best in all of Nezikin. What a doozy of a daf. So big shkoyach to everybody. Wait, let me see. I see that there's a question here. Hold on.